What has forked horns is closely related to giraffes, lives only in the western parts of North America, and could also outrun a cheetah. Sound like a fantastical creature that no one could ever spot. Well, you could actually spot one if you tried kind of easily. But what is this magical creature? You'll find out on today's episode of Life's Potluck Buffet, only on YouTube. This is John Paulus, host of Life's Potluck Buffet. If you have been enjoying Life's Potluck Buffet, please subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. If you have a Brave browser, you can now contribute basic attention tokens to Life's Potluck Buffet on YouTube. Thank you for your support, and thank you for listening. The famous Swedish biologist Carl Linnaeus, who came up with a system for figuring out family trees of various animals and relations between various animals in the world, as well as plants and all sorts of living things. The idea, of course, was to be able to create neat scientific categories for everything in the world. And in fact, Linnaeus is the one who is credited with coming up with the, idea of scientific naming that we have today, where things get called by, their two names, the genus and the species, and you remember that from science classes. Those funky Greek and Latin and sometimes just Latinized names of things, like in the case of today's episode, I'll be talking about the Antilocapra americana. So that, when you say names like that and they say it's a scientific name, well, Carl Linnaeus is the person who came up with the format that we still use today to talk about everything in nature. Well, Linnaeus also had to come up with a way of categorizing, for the sake of eliminating from his world, or including them in a very special section, I should say, the creatures that didn't actually exist. And he called these Animalia paradoxa, these paradoxical animals, or basically animals that don't make any sense because they are kind of made-up creatures that exist in mythology or in just misidentification of another strange creature that people just didn't realize it was something else. So these include things like the Hydra, the mythical Hydra, which Linnaeus says there was one on display in some place that he was told, this is evidence for the existence of the Hydra. And of course, he was like, this is just something that somebody put together to make it look like the Hydra exists. And then there's the sirens and, all sorts of mythological things. Linnaeus didn't know about Yeti and the other wonderful creatures in the world of cryptozoology, but nonetheless, Linnaeus wanted to set the record straight about some mythical, fantastical creatures that were out there, that weren't out there, but people might have thought from what they read. And also people were still claiming to see them, of course, and that would continue. That still continues to this day. And it can be a field of study that's a lot of fun. Now, outside of cryptozoology, in the world of just zoology, one of the most interesting animals, I think, out there is the sole survivor of a whole family of animals, all of which are extinct except for it. It's like the Highlander of its animal family. And the animal family that it comes from is the Antilocapridae. So that's the antelope goat family. And the like the Holy Roman Empire, antelope goats are neither antelopes or goats. And in fact, they're not close to either per se, because the closest relatives to the Antilocapridae, the closest family is the Giraffidae. Yeah, you got it. That's the giraffe family. And there are only really two types of animals in the giraffe family, and that's the okapi, which are now really only found in the modern nation of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and also the giraffe, which you're probably familiar with the giraffe. The okapi is called a zebra giraffe sometimes. So that's in English. So just because it's got stripes like a zebra on its, but only on its like legs, and anyway, the okapi and the giraffe are two animals that are closely or closest related to the Antilocapridae family. And as I said, there's really only one genus and one species of that family, and it has a few subspecies that are in the United States and Mexico, but that is really it. There's just really one species of this whole family left on Earth, and that is the Antilocapra americana, which is known in English as the pronghorn, and it's known in Spanish as the berrendo, which berrendo is a Spanish word that describes an animal that has chestnut and white patches, and it's describing the fact that the pronghorn has a kind of white belly, and its tail area is white, and it has some stripes on its neck, and it kind of has some white in its the bottom of its like jaw, and otherwise it's mostly brown. And as the English name suggests, it has horns that look like, well, a prong. So it's got these forked horns, and it's very noticeable, that very interesting, very kind of different, unique looking horns that it has. And the pronghorn is a survivor of a world that was much different in North America than it is today, of eons ago. And for that reason, it is, except for the cheetah, and this is the cheetah that today is distributed in various subspecies around the African continent, and also there's one subspecies that's still around in Asia, especially, well, parts of Iran, largely. And interestingly, cheetah, the name cheetah, is from a word that is or words in Urdu and Hindi that have to do with being spotted, because obviously cheetah have spots. So it's kind of interesting. It's also like the Spanish word for pronghorn. It talks about the color. It's the colors of its coat. Now, the cheetah is really fast. But the thing about the cheetah, and this is why I feel like the pronghorn kind of has a slight advantage over the cheetah in terms of the speed. The cheetah can accelerate very quickly and decelerate very quickly. But the cheetah can also keep its high speed up, which is close to something like 60 miles an hour or something crazy like that, for only a kilometer. Don't worry, just a kilometer. The pronghorn can run at close to those speeds for like 30 kilometers. So the pronghorn is really built to just get the heck out of a situation. And the reason that scientists think that the pronghorn needed to escape such creatures is that eons ago there were predators in the feline families that were roaming the plains of North America. And there were also lions and all sorts of creatures. How do we know about these creatures? Well, remember that episode about the mysterious pit that's filled with water, that spring in France, and the episode about Niagara Falls, where I talked about the idea of karst geographies, or you have these limestone geographies where, because of the way the limestone works, you have a lot of holes like pits. The area, there's an area in Wyoming in the United States that has this karst geography and has pits, and one of these pits, it has over the last eons been basically a big trap for animals, something out of cartoons. And there are fossils and remains of animals of an incredible variety. Some of them ages old, like these old it's called the American cheetah, although its name is the Myricinonyx, which is a made up scientific name for the genus of this American cheetah that is based on the name, the genus of the cheetah, which is a Cynonyx, which means the unmovable claw, really, or at least it's a kind of made up word that it suggests that the claws aren't really retractable fully, and that's something true about the cheetah. And apparently the Myricinonyx, which means the wondrous unretractable claw, apparently may have slightly more retractable claws, or maybe even fully retractable claws. The scientists aren't quite certain, but there was a suggestion that they actually aren't are more like leopards, and in terms of having retractable claws. And that is interesting because that would apparently, I understand, make them a little bit slower, which is kind of interesting because, and this is now just speculation, the cheetah is slightly faster than the pronghorn, the cheetah that's in Africa and in Asia. Those cheetahs are slightly faster than the pronghorn over short distances. So that might mean that maybe the Myricinonyx, the American cheetah, was slightly slower. And then so maybe that's why the pronghorn made it. But that's just speculation. It's just interesting to think about. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, the pronghorn is tremendously fast, an amazingly fast animal. And because of that, it was able to survive any predators that were trying to chase after it and escape them. Because there's only two reasons for being fast. One is if you're a cheetah, it's to chase things down. And the other reason to be really fast is to escape something that's chasing you. So we have two cases of that in the world now, really, in the pronghorn and the cheetah. Although there are other animals that can run pretty fast as well to try to escape things like fast cats, like cheetahs, and so that they also exist. But in terms of this very, very special family of animals, the antelope goat family, which are neither antelopes nor goats, there's only one left in the whole wide world, and that's the pronghorn, which is still around, just without a predator to chase after it, and just living large in North America. So let's ask the cards how we can live large and see what they have to say today. So yellow lemons, blue dumplings, magenta noodles, cards, tell us some things. It's card 23. The future is just the present with more flying. So think about a job that's going to exist 100 years from now. So take a moment, whatever pops to mind. You remember an episode long ago, I came up with the idea of this electric gondola that's kind of like shaped like a smartphone, and I kind of came up with a scenario for how this would be what this was saying about the world in the future. It wasn't saying that there would be smartphone-shaped electric gondolas, by the way. And that's the key. When you think of whatever this thing that comes to mind is, that is this job of the future, you're going to find in it kind of hints and tips about your present. Because really, the future that you think of right now is really just a version of the present, and it often involves more floating or flying, for sure. So just fly on back tomorrow to YouTube, and I'll see you on the next episode of Life's Potluck Buffet.